It will certainly be difficult to top the finish we saw at Monza 2 weeks ago. Two classes saw the lead change on the final lap, leaving everything in the air right up to the line. But Le Mans has a way of producing its own unpredictability. Its long, thirsty straightaways force drivers to not just try to be fast, but smart with how they run their race. The thinkers and those with a light right foot now have a chance to shine as we get ready to watch round 13 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GTLM classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTD class is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, Circuit de la Sarthe is easily one of the most famous tracks in the world, but why don't you give our viewers the skinny on it anyways?
Well, this track is huge, Joe. 8.47 miles or 13.63 kilometers to be exact. Just how large was that? Well, I found this on a Rodent track earlier, but back in 1988, Welter Racing knew that their Peugeot wasn't going to win the esteemed 24-hour of Le Mans here, so they went for the speed record instead, and they set it down the Mulsanne Straight at 252 miles an hour. Now, chicanes have been added to that long back straight since then to stop the cars from beating the Peugeot's speed record or Mark Webber's height record, but with long straights and high-speed turns still plenty about this circuit, I have a feeling our viewers are going to be in for a treat for tonight's 90-minute long race. Let's take a look at it with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around the Circuit de la Sarthe. First, we'll fly down the imposing start-finish straight with its huge grandstands and buildings. Thankfully, the track has been widened a lot since its very early days. Up next is the Dunlop curve, which can't quite be taken flat out if you're hitting the line right. A little lift sets you up for the Dunlop chicane, which is tighter and slower than it looks. That then brings you over the crest and under the famous Dunlop Bridge for the Chapel Rundown. Hold to the right to give yourself the best entry into the Forest S's. The first half has a lot of banking, but the right-hander dumps into a crest. Be wary of being too eager on the power because the car can get away from you. Then, it's a short burst to Tertre Rouge. Getting on the power as soon as possible is going to be so important out of this right-hand flick, because other than the Antares, it's going to be a long straight shot to the first chicane. In fact, since it's flat out for so long, let's skip ahead. You can brake pretty deep for the Forza chicane, but you've got to be careful not to compromise your corner exit. The paved runoff should save you from most of your mistakes, but it's still not going to make for a happy time. Expect overtakes to happen coming into and out of the chicane. Fast forwarding once again, make sure and have your brake marker picked out for the second big braking event on this stretch, then throw out the anchor. The Michelin chicane is almost a mirror image of the first one, and just like before, the corner exit is all important. From there, the Mulsanne kink brings us to within sight of the Mulsanne corner. We're going to skip ahead to that, where you can see it's not a straight shot into the braking zone. The addition of the roundabout in the 80s has made it all the more tricky slowing the car up into this tight 90-degree bend. Don't be afraid to straddle that outside curb on the exit. Every little bit of momentum will be useful, so take the track to its limits. Yet again, let's chop off a long portion of straight and show you the entry to Indianapolis. This right-hand kink requires you to turn in and brake at the same time. Bring the car back across the track and use the banking as much as you can. Tuck it right down to that apex, then switch sides after you swing it out. Arnage is a deceptively slow bend that invites you to enter far too hot. There's very little runoff to the outside, so it's not uncommon to see cars make contact with the wall here. The car then blasts its way towards the Porsche curves, which reside at the end of this flat-out section. As you enter, bring the car far to the left and use the turn to help scrub off speed. Hold tight to the right, and from there, it starts to feel a little like a street course with that blue wall to the outside of the bridge corners. These then bring you into karting, where things get much slower. Once again, tuck the car all the way to the right because you need the best line into the left-hander. Even though the outside is paved, going wide will hurt because you'll get a slowdown penalty. From there, you'll fly through the right-left of Maison Blanche, which literally translates to White House, and then it's time for the Ford chicane. This first half is pretty fast, but you want to keep the car settled so that you can brake for the second half. Things get really tight now that the track rejoins the Bugatti circuit. Try to both stay off those tall curves and keep it out of the gravel. From there, we've now finished a lap around the Circuit de la Sarthe.
Even a condensed lap takes quite a while around here at Le Mans, so drivers are going to be getting Not many laps in, but quite a bit of speed on those long straights that Sam mentioned. Now, Bill, 3 rounds left, including today. It's starting to come down to the wire. What are the points?
Yep, first off, Andy and Jackson in the GSRC graphic department asked me to thank the drivers for their order of finish last time. It resulted in very few position changes in the standings, making the graphics guys' job a little easier. Let's start by looking at the prototypes there, and we'll show you that Talon Robert Tinsey and SRN Daniel Gralty are the only drivers swapping positions. For Gralty, 4 consecutive thirds is not enough to keep Tinsey behind him in the points. Tinsey's unique road to victory last time out at Monza sparked some good-hearted, healthy controversy between Bob the Blade and fifth-place finisher, or the second-place finisher and fifth in the standings, Alex Ellis. But the driver that Tinsey's methods might most affect is the point leader, Cy Andra, as Tinsey's march to the top continues. As for Autobahn's East Big Cheese John Ulmer, he has not stepped on a podium since round 8. Let's go to the GTLMs, where Jeffrey the Mantra Ohms has won 7 out of 11 races for AOD Racing, including the last 2 in a row. After an 11th in the season opener, Steve McGarvey hasn't missed a podium and has a pair of wins to boot. Nevertheless, TMC Carbon driver will be hard-pressed to catch the Mantra. Billy Smith has a win at Mosport, but the Autobahn West driver has had to push just to run up front. SRN's Ryan Huffs, well, his top 5 streak is at 7 and counting. Veteran Leif Peterson for Autobahn East sits in 5th. For the GTDs, the story early was Rainier Racing's Bradley Haley. The story late has been Dennis Servretic. The question is there enough time left in the season for Servretic to run down Haley? We'll see. As Joe mentioned, the races are running out. After missing 2 races, Scott McGarvey returns to the series with the 4th. And just a point of interest on Kevin Santana. Now, here in California, we call a Santana the Devil Wind. Now, coincidentally, Kevin races the number 666 car. Makes you say, doesn't it? Okay, back to you, Joe. Oh, wait. No, we got to look at the team. Sorry. Before we do that, the teams are so locked in, I almost forgot to do them. It is all about the team up front, boy. They are so good. And there you see them, SRN Motorsports, comfortably ahead by 236 points. A bit of a chase there between the rest of those guys. Still a lot of spots to be made. Look what Autobahn West did as they pick up 3 spots. Ulmer, Billy Smith, and Tejeda doing the work there. All right, Joe, now back to you.
All right, almost jumped the gun. Now, as we wait for the last chance qualifying to complete here with quite a few drivers still trying to get their times in, why don't we take a glance at the race details and see what we're looking at today. Now, appropriately, this is an endurance race being a 90-minute one, but as I said, we're on round 13 out of 15. They do have 2 drop weeks out of those amount of races that they have. That helps you deal with a few of the bad races that come about. This is an open setup series. Drivers can tweak around as they please, but they have reduced the fuel to force at least 2 pit stops in these 90-minute races. We could see 3 potentially with the prototypes, though. We'll have to wait and see. Incident cap of about 36, with this being a longer one, so drivers do need to watch out. There's a couple of places around the mall that you can pick those up. And they do have a spare car. 1 free repair is waiting in the pits if they find damage along the way. As we ride on board with Gracia, who just took himself up to the top of the GTD class.
By 0.006 of a second. That was his first time lap of a session. He just knocked Dennis Savatek off of that top spot.
Brandon Gracia got a lot of ribbing in the forums as he hosted a practice session, and some of the quirks of the iRacing platform. It actually was sent out about 9 times to each person's inbox. So it said practice session, practice session, practice session. So boy, they really let him have it in the forum. But clearly, I think he might have used all 9 of them. He's fast.
Yeah, I think he's redeemed himself here. So ribbon or not, as we watch Ellis try to get a time in. He's currently sitting in 7th in the prototypes. The one that I'm curious about is Lauro Costa, who does not have a time yet and has returned after quite a break. He came in at the start planning on doing the prototypes this season. Unfortunately, his schedule conflicts meant that he was not able to compete for the rest of the season. Well, it looks like that's changed for now.
I can drill down on that a little bit. It wasn't so much the schedule conflicts. He's from South America, so the time change affects him doubly there. So it's a 2-hour swing. It made the races too late. So with the time change, it brings it back into his purview of awakeness.
Aha. Bradley Haley has come across the line just recently, and that puts him into 4th. Not good enough to get ahead of Savretic, his main rival for the championship.
A lot of cars out on track in this last chance qualifying session here, Joe. And I have to wonder, I was trying to see if there'd be any advantage to that with the track conditions. When practice started about 4 hours ago, there were the starting state that they can set the track at. It was only 3% track use, so there was not a lot of grip out there. And I wonder if these are drivers who just wanted to go out at the end of qualifying so there was as much rubber down as possible. And maybe that's why we are seeing some fast times in the dire minutes from the qualifying session here.
Be a little impressed, actually, if they had enough rubber go down during qualifying, since so few laps can be done in the 15 minutes that they have, as we watch Chris Pence, who still does not have a time himself. Ellis is about to go across the line as he comes through the Ford chicane, though. And he's currently sitting in 7th at a 37.6, but he improves by a significant margin. A 35.3 is enough to get him on row 2.
The clock there in the top left corner of your screen counting down the time left to the checkered flag for qualifying. However, it will then go back up a little bit to allow more cars to finish off. So still a while to go here. See what Paul Darling can do in this Ferrari as he works his way around this famed racing course. And Joe, for every long straight, that means there's a good passing opportunity at the end of it.
Some of them, at least, as places like Indianapolis can be very tricky, although passes can happen. Depends on what car you're in, I would say, as we watch Darling from on his dash heading up towards the Porsche curves. Another place where it's a long straight, not necessarily heavy braking into that corner. I think Chris Pence is getting his first lap in, but it's going to put him last of the cars who've got a time, into 11th. Now, Bill, in the championship situation, one thing I found interesting was over in the GTLM. I don't know if my math is wrong here, but if I was looking at it correctly, I think Jeffrey Ooms could seal the deal today. It depends on what McGarvey does. Am I incorrect on that?
Yeah, I think that's real close because Ooms has not only that comfortable lead, but he also has 16 pocket points. So I really think any type of finish here is going to make it hard for Stephen McGarvey. When you win 7 out of 11 races, you kind of got to figure you got it locked up. You know, just to follow up a little bit on the prototypes and the qualifying going in, even coming in last right now, is we're hoping that Laura Costa gets in a time. If he doesn't, that changes his race completely, as he'll have to start behind everybody. So even just to get in something and start 12th behind the prototypes would be important.
This is probably his best place to try and do something with that, though. We've seen Loro do incredible things with fuel, and this class is the tightest on that. So what a place for him to show up as we ride just over his right shoulder, heading past No Name and Golf up towards Indianapolis. With the downforce on these prototypes, they'll be swinging in through that kink at a high rate of knots right here.
191 miles now. He was going before he ran wide there on exit, but he's got to keep it out of that gravel, and he did, because if he gets an incident point, this qualifying lap will be null and void.
Nice and tidy through Arnage as well. Just has to deal with the Porsche curves. A few places there where you can sneak some 1Xs if you're not careful, and some slowdowns too.
But you're allowed 36 of them today, Joe. We'll have to see how that pans out.
And none of the drivers are going to be able to reach 36 laps. So you can get away with 1 per lap, but at 8.5 miles per lap, there's a lot of places where you can go off. So he works his way through the left, right of the Porsche curves, out of karting, Don't think he got a slowdown there, although he was pretty wide. For Maison Blanche, now just the Ford chicane. Has to watch out for these tall sausage curbs on the insides. One last corner to go. Gets it through there clean. What can Lauro Costa do as the checkered flag comes out? This is it for him. Good enough for 10th.
Wow, that's surprising.
Now, the cool thing is, iRacing has had an update since the last build. Well, of course, they've had an update since the last build, but they've had an update since the last race, I should say. And with that came the ability to sort the cars into custom classes, something that we had to do a little bit manually here for our timing and scoring. So drivers were a little bit blind out there as to what order they were in within their class, at least within the GTLM and the GTD classes, since they had multiple makes of cars, and those were each classified as their own class. Well, now they all get classified as the class that they should be, and well, what that means for this series is that they can be gridded where they're supposed to be. So no driver is going to have to start from the pit lane if they don't want to.
Oh, that's good for these guys. Also good for the commentators. Going to keep me from yelling out there's a battle between a back-marking prototype and a front-running GTD driver.
Absolutely.
Pence just crossed the line, was not able to improve his position, and then brought it to a halt on track. Paul Darling, who we currently ride on board, and Lauro Costa, the only two still out there. As you see, iRacing has gave them some extra time to finish up the laps that they've started.
I think Costa, he got the checkered flag before he crossed the line, so I don't think he'll be allowed to count this one. Darling, however, will, as he comes up to the final two chicanes. Currently sitting pretty far down the order, but we're used to seeing this at this point for Darling. As fast as he is, his lack of practice during the week and before the race certainly puts him on the back foot, and he gets better. Jumps up, however, a number of positions to 5th, it looks like.
You saw that dent in the front of his Ferrari. I think he got that from riding over the sausage curbs at the end of a lap, and obviously in qualifying with only a few turns left, he could get away with that, but in the race that could be costly. Even though you get one free repair, we always mention that when it comes to this kind of endurance racing, sure, a free repair is good, but it's still going to hurt you in the long run if you have a crash that makes you end up using it. Well, a tow to the pits here, Joe, is definitely going to cost you some time.
It'll sting, that's for sure. That is it for our qualifying, so let's go through the grid. Starting on the pole is going to be Cy Andra. He's trying to defend his championship lead away from Tinsey, who has been gaining, but it's John Ulmer who will start on the front row next to him. Tinsey will be in 3rd when the green drops. Alex Ellis, who was a little bit irked about Tinsey's methods for the win last round, will start in 4th, with Daniel Gralti beginning in 5th place behind them. Then in 6th, next to Gralti, it'll be Mike Young. Armando Edwards will be P7, with Mark Wilson starting 8th. Lionel Duprat took another 4th place, back-to-back for him last round at Monza, but today he starts in 9th position. Lauro Costa will be 10th, and then Elliot Mimi, who, interestingly, we'll talk about this more later, will be driving one-handed today. Chris Pence starts behind him, the last of the prototypes, in 12th. Bill?
The top two in the points in the GTLMs sit next to each other, Jeffrey the Mantra Ohms and Stephen McGarvey. Behind them is Jason Girard and Jason Deep Freeze DeVries coming back to the Autobahn series after a long stint away. Good to see him back. Paul Oh My Darling behind them, Ryan Huff. Billy Smith II is well down the order in that class. Carlos Villa, Dave Hill. Leif Peterson sits 5th in the points, but last on the grid in the GTLMs. Sam?
Yeah, and then we get to the GTD class, where we saw Brandon Guasia take the pole by 6 thousandths of a second at the start of LCQ. That's how the session finishes as well. The driver he took it from was Dennis Savratic, will be starting right behind him, ahead of Kevin Santana, and then our points leader Bradley Haley back here in 4th. Then we have Giuliano Romagnolo starting in 5th position, ahead of Scott McGarvey, Paul Lindsay and Sheldon Rosenbaum back there, as well as Sean Reese Tim McLeish, Sheldon Woloshin, Matt Owens, Robert Sklenka, Mark Kudrowski, and Alan Hessebeck. The field getting gridded up for the start of today's 90-minute race.
Believe Samuel Scott and Alex Simonik should take to the grid. So those two will be at the back of the GTLMs. Dale Green will be with them as well, even though his time was slower than actually quite a host of the GTDs. But thankfully, now with the latest build and iRacing's newest feature, we won't have to worry about him being in the pit lane. The usual question comes to you guys. We'll go to Bill. Who are your picks today?
Joe, help me out on this. What's French for cheese?
Fromage.
Okay, there you go. I like the big fromage today. Look for John Ulmer to get that one. And down in the GTLMs, oh, God, just because you can't take Ohms every time. What happens to Ohms? He has some trouble. Steve McGarvey gets the win down there. Sam, who do you like where you are?
Well, apparently Bill never watched Dexter's Laboratory. I did, however, so I'm going to use some science to try and figure this one out. Brandon Gracia was fastest in practice. Brandon Gracia was fastest in qualifying. Do some calculations in the secret lab here. I'm going to pick Brandon Gracia for the GTD win.
A man with no guts, I have to say. So Gracia certainly looking good today. Savretic, though, is the one that we really need to watch, and Haley, because they are battling for the championship lead, and it is not too far apart between them. This could be a decisive race with the rounds getting less and less as we watch the cars grid up behind the roof pace car. Don't worry, don't have to do a full lap around Le Mans for the pace lap. They're going to start just before the Porsche curves, weave their way through those. And then we get the tricolor up in the air from the French Air Force.
For Dennis Savretic, the addition of Brandon Gracia into the mix with Kevin Santana between him and Haley, that's all good news as he tries to run down Haley.
Certainly is, as we take a look at Scott McGarvey and Billy Smith there, waiting in their respective cars. Scott McGarvey been having a great season in the GTDs. We've definitely been giving him credit, but every time it just doesn't feel like enough. And now Ulmer has reached the grid, starting there on the front row next to Andra. Interesting thing is the first corner is the Dunlop curve, but none of these cars are going to be braking for it. So iRacing elects to put the leader on the right side of the track. The first braking zone is a left-hander. Wonder if that's going to affect some of these drivers.
You talked about Scott McGarvey. He raced in the shadow of his brother, Stephen McGarvey, when Stephen was winning the, it wasn't the GTLM class, but it was that middle class where he won the championship. But yeah, now Scott's strong.
Taking a little bit after his brother. Looking like, unfortunately, with the way the points are in GTLM, that Stephen is not going to be able to defend that crown. They see the classes splitting apart, leaving a gap amongst each other. That is normal in multi-class racing. They try to give space so that they're not on top of the faster class when they hit the braking zone into the first corner. This must feel achingly slow for these drivers working their way through bridge now. One of those danger zones.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of them already taken advantage of this to try and save fuel, Joe.
Yeah, if I was one of them, certainly be in 6th gear right now. And then into karting now. As the turns tighten up. Quite a bit of runoff, though. As much as this is a street course, this is a very modern street course, and there's a lot of paved areas and a lot of gravel traps to the outsides of corners to keep drivers safe. Then there's Maison Blanche flat out in every one of these cars. She weave back and forth and come up to the approach to the pit lane. Something you need to practice if you haven't yet in every one of these cars, because it has its own couple of chicanes to throw you for a loop, and you can get an unsafe pit entry if you screw that up. There we see the tricolor flying by. We're waiting for Cy Andra to take the green. Green flag waves. He accelerates away, but not a terribly good start because John Ulmer is up beside him. He's going to have a nose ahead as they come through Dunlop. He might be able to take the lead away into the chicane. Let's see if he's got it. Andre's trying to come back at him. It switches back through the next corner, but Ulmer takes it. Let's go back to GTLM.
Ohms in his Ferrari gets a great jump. A bunch of Fords chasing him. Stephen McGarvey's going to slot into second. Jason Gerard behind him. Jason DeVries behind that. Sam?
And Brandon Garcia waited until they were all out of the chicanes to get on the loud pedal to start the GTD field, but he's still got a pretty good launch nonetheless over Dennis Savatic, who filters into second in front of the GTD field, single file as they work their way into the course.
Pretty uneventful through that Dunlop chicane for all three classes, but much welcome for them, I'm sure. John Ulmer still your leader as we jump up to the prototypes, now reaching the first of the chicanes on the Mulsanne. First up is Forza. Don't see anybody blowing it this time through. And everybody successfully through a train of HPDs. Nobody really using the draft yet to make any moves, although I say that and I take that back as Mike Young and the car of Armando Edwards side by side as they head towards Michelin. Looks like Edwards going to come out ahead in that battle. Oh, and now he comes back at him though. Mike Young with a great exit out of that second chicane. They head up towards the Mulsanne corner. Very heavy braking into this one, and with the early days, Edwards slots back into his slipstream before they hit the kink.
Remember, Young is one of the many drivers to have a win in this class already this series. I think there's about 7 of them.
Third place, GTLM, Jason Gerard and the car of Dale Green. Oh, excuse me, no, this is DeVries and Darling in a battle. And actually, what happened to Gerard? He is way back there. Did he have a cut course on the first lap?
Boy, what really happened was Stephen McGarvey and Ohms, they just drove away. DeVries was racing with Gerard. I'll have to find out what happened to Gerard. They were racing together, but the front two have really distanced themselves.
So interesting shakeup there in the GTLM. Gerard has not been having the best of times in this class. He's had a couple good races here and there, but he's certainly blowing hot and cold as we see him try to climb his way back up the order, putting a pass on Dale Green. Back in the slowest class, Guaracia still up at the front and actually leaving Savretic a little bit behind.
Yeah, you use that term relatively, Joe. Gracia hit 180 miles an hour before braking for Indianapolis. Even though Savratek, yes, got dropped a little bit, it's definitely still within drafting range. And I'm sure, of course, with these drivers are going to be racing approximately 25 laps today. We're only on lap 1. Savratek just biding his time for now in that Mercedes.
Just to follow up on the Jason Gerard story, I believe him and Ryan Huff both had slowdown penalties, and they both had to serve it on the first lap down the straight. It was just so costly. Everybody blew by him.
Never want to get those slowdown penalties on the very first lap, as iRacing is much more punishing since it doesn't have a frame of reference of how much to tell you to give back. So we jump back up to our leader, or excuse me, to our second place driver, Cy Andra, who's now dealing with Tinsey, his championship rival. This is the car he wants to keep behind him. We ride on board with Bob the Blade now.
Yeah, you said it, Joe. Honestly, Andra doesn't really care much about Ulmer right now, although he'd like to get the first place points, but he really just needs to keep Tinsey behind him.
But whatever happened to Ryan Huff, he is now in the pits in his number 41 machine.
Wonder if he maybe cut over some of the sausage curbs and got some damage that we didn't see. Or he could be dealing with a black flag.
It was really fascinating that maybe he didn't clear the black flag in time. Him and Gerard were like nose to tail, both racing trying to clear the black flag, and he was gaining on Gerard. It was interesting as they went down the straight. He was gaining, so yeah, maybe he took a little liberties there.
Oh, there we see one of the prototypes ducking out, and I think that was Gralty on Young on Gralty, I should say. So Mike Young making some progress forward. Apparently his race pace better than his qualifying. Fans of Jason Gerard, he's got another spot over Leif Peterson. Oh, he did momentarily. I think he had another cut course potentially as he blew the first chicane just a little bit. He's not slowing down. But this is going to bring that battle back together as Peterson got a much better run down the Mulsanne towards the second chicane. It easily gets him before they get to the braking.
Peterson racing for points, Gerard racing for pride.
Oh, and Andra falling backwards. Oh, and so is Tinsey. Oh, and he gets hit. Andra gets tipped by Daniel Gralty trying to squeeze through. What happened here?
Well, Tinsey made the pass, but then Andra's really off the pace.
Andra must have cut the course at the Mulsanne. Yeah, he immediately pulls over. It didn't look like Tinsey did the same. But he slows down too. And if we watch to see what happens here as they get going once again, yeah, there you see the contact with Gralty, who did not expect them to go too wide.
A lot of net code probably on that contact. So what does that mean? That's put Alex Ellis now up into second. Gralty, Mike Young. Then you get back to Tinsey and Andra racing now for fifth.
Then sealing up for third in GTD, Kevin Santana made a mistake in Mulsanne, and Bradley Haley goes wheel to wheel with him, moves up into third, and Santana might not be done falling back yet. There goes Romagnolo up into fourth place. So Santana, just like that, one mistake, he's lost 2 spots. Under pressure to lose maybe even a third.
Yeah, his car is struggling to not look healthy through Arnage because Scott McGarvey is all over that rear spoiler. They scream their way towards the Porsche curves. What's McGarvey got? Defensive move from Santana, going all the way to the crown of the racing line. As they brake, he's going to hold him off for now. So Santana stops the bleeding at fifth. Interesting stuff. Well, Haley has got to really hustle at this point because his rival, Savretic, is well up the way, a whole 3.3 seconds, and Savretic is still holding on to Gracia. So the win is not off the cards for Dennis at this point.
Yeah, but a win for Savretic and a third for Haley will be, I'm going to put on my Captain Obvious cap here, would be much better than a win and a second for Haley.
So as we watch out the rear of the car of our leader, we jump back off board. They complete another lap. And Sam, you were doing some calculations. How many laps were these GTDs going to make? Because it's not many.
I believe these GTD cars will do about 23 laps, finish about 3 laps down of our overall winner in the prototype division. But my math could be off. Here at GSRC, we're not always known for being the best at math. GSRC stands for. I'm not quite sure. I can't think of.
Not good at acronyms either, I guess.
Yeah, I can't think of an acronym for our 5-letter abbreviation.
We ride on board with second place in the GTD. Savretic now just on the dash of Dennis, sitting in the wake of Gracia. I don't think we've seen Gracia in a while. He was running in much of the opening rounds, but I'm trying to think of the last race that we've seen him run in. Why don't we jump up to third in the prototypes? Because Daniel Gralty and Mike Young I think they've swapped places, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Young is really, really good. Poor Daniel Giraldi, just another driver to keep him away from getting that win.
And we missed another pass because Smith has got himself up into third, or has he? Still a battle between himself and De Vries. De Vries holds him off through the Mulsanne corner. Behind them, don't forget Paul Darling. This is 3 cars in a battle for position.
Well behind the 2 leaders that have run away. De Vries had the win. Look at, they continue to race here. And Billy Smith is going to get it. De Vries had the win on his coming back in his hands. Oh my goodness! Here comes Darling.
Darling ducks to the inside, down through Indianapolis. 2 spots in 1 straight for Jason De Vries to get demoted by. But yeah, he with just about a corner and a half to go for Jason De Vries, he handed it over to Jeffrey Ooms in the final moments of Monza 2 weeks ago. These 3 go back line astern as they come towards the Porsche curves. And they've dropped off a significant portion from our top 2, Ooms and McGarvey, about 7.5 seconds. We're only less than 15 minutes into this race. In fact, that's really honestly a huge chunk of time in that little bit of racing. Well, fans of Robert Tinsley, he's trying to regain the ground that he lost. He's cut down the gap to Giraldi to about 1.1 seconds at this point, and he has dropped Cy Andra something fierce. 3 seconds between those 2.
Sorry, Joe, I was a little quiet there while I was doing a little Sean Ambrose research here, following up on Gracia. Yeah, we haven't seen him since round 6 of Road Atlanta, so that's we've missed him. But boy, he's making a splash when he returns.
Certainly is.
Yeah, no changes in the top 4 in GTD. I'll tell you what, though, Santana and Scott McGarvey have switched 5th and 6th positions in this class back and forth a couple of times. Santana has it now. And it'll be interesting seeing if they start to work with each other on the Mulsanne Straight, try and leapfrog each other and pull away from the cars behind, try and close back in with Roman Yolo in front of them.
Yeah, the car behind them, the flash of blue that you could see when we were riding on board with Santana there is Sheldon Rosenbaum, sitting in 7th. Oh, and De Vries, I thought, made a move on Darling?
No, it's Darling just got around De Vries. De Vries got it back. Darling just got it back. I'm not sure how much they're racing, how much they're dancing as they go down the long straight. What's interesting, though, is both of those guys are being ran down by the guy who qualified a lot higher, Jason Girard. Remember, he had that slowdown penalty that cost him horribly on the first lap. He's beginning to get both of these guys.
He's recovered to 6 at this point, but he's a long ways behind the class leaders, about roughly 13 seconds back from them. Going to be a little bit too hard for him to make up unless we see a lot of attrition up towards the top of this GTLM field.
I'm going to give a little advice to these drivers, a little technical advice. This is some inside information. The fastest lane down that straight is right down the middle, because there's a little, the road kind of arches so that the rain pulls off and you can get your car a little closer to the ground. Take it right down the center line, boys. How about that, Joe? You like that one?
Yeah, I remember hearing that one before. Interesting that none of them are doing that. I feel like these guys have run enough. They probably would be aware. So maybe it's just too marginal to give them any sort of advantages. We see them work their way through Mulsanne, and now Girard definitely on the back of De Vries. De Vries running that beautiful Martini livery.
Meanwhile, new drive up in podium position in GTD. Giuliano Romagnolo has gone by Bradley Haley. Bradley Haley back into 4th again, now championship lead in GTD. Definitely not where he wants to be championship-wise, but once again, still a long way to go, and he can try and draft off of Romagnolo here, maybe play some strategy games late in the race.
Romagnolo, one of those drivers that might be too fast for his own good. He's always a good racer, but always seems to find trouble somewhere. And now he's got 90 minutes to try to stay away from trouble. Could be a tall order.
With about 21 points between Haley and Servetic, he does have a bit of a buffer, but he can't hand away too many over these last 3 rounds.
Well, the good news for him with that regards is that Servetic has dropped back of Gracia now.
Ooh, by quite a bit, actually. As we jump up to those two, about 2 seconds between Dennis and Gracia. Up in the prototypes, Tinsley's finally run down Gralti. Not just run him down, as they work through the Forza chicane, he's passed him. Gralti has just had an impressive number of podiums this season. And regardless of his demotion from second place, Gralti has just impressed me the way that he's improved, mostly through consistency. He's not incredibly fast. He avoids trouble like some of the fast drivers are unable to.
If him and John Ulmer could have a kid, you'd have yourself a good race driver. You get Ulmer's speed and Gralti's. Talk about the science project there that Sam was talking about. There you have one. Gralti right now about 6.3 seconds ahead, though, of well, what happened to Andra? Andre's behind Mimi. Did he have another issue?
He might have.
Andra was just trying to run down Gralti last time I checked, so now Elliot Mimi has got him. Not bad for a one-handed driver, Joe.
Very much so.
Mimi's done a nice job of fighting his way up through the field.
We should clarify. So Elliot Mimi, apparently his right hand is a little bit swollen. Well, St. Patrick's Day spirit got a little bit too much into it and got into a bar fight during the holiday. So he's recovering from that and unfortunately having to change his shifter so that he's using a button for downshifting, I believe, and upshifting is the paddle still.
So this sounds like he lost the fight, Joe.
No, he did not, actually, according to him.
Yeah, when your hand is damaged, that's a good sign. It's when your nose is damaged, that's when you're in trouble.
6th place right now for the one-handed man. One-armed man, I guess we should call him. Down to the GTD class. Scott McGarvey has gotten past Santana, but I think Santana has other plans on that as they go door to door down the Mulsanne.
This isn't the first time they've traded this spot, but I'm worried that this isn't them working together because every now and then you've seen the car in front break in the draft a little bit as well. So I don't know if they're really working together here or if this is just a matter of each driver trying to be in 5th. Either way, though, they're still far and away ahead of Sheldon Rosenbaum in 7th, so no harm right now. Probably just having some fun out there.
Go to 17th overall real quick. This is Jason Girard. I mentioned that he was going to get around Jason DeVries. Well, he did. So here comes Girard on his climb back up to the top. Now 5th in class.
And speaking at the top of the screen, we saw a flash of purple. Alex Ellis set the fastest lap just recently. And, well, that's significant because Ellis is in 2nd right now, which means he's gaining on John Ulmer. Ellis has got 1 win under his belt so far. Actually, wait, am I correct on that?
No, yeah, he has a win. Yep, one of many.
I'm not sure I see our pole sitter, Cy Andre, on track anymore. He had still been running in the top 10. Oh, no, there he is.
Yeah, his car's still out there, still circling around, just not as high up as he would want. And the more he lets these position slips, the more it's going to hurt him in the championship. It is incredibly tight up at the top there. He could even lose a spot to Daniel Gralti potentially, as Gralti is only 12 points behind.
Yeah, the good news for Ulmer and the bad news for Tinsey is because of the length of Le Mans, there's not going to be a lot of lap traffic. Maybe lap traffic not John Ulmer's forte, certainly is Robert Tinsey's strength.
Oh, it's not the cars ahead that Ulmer's worried about. It's the car behind as they break for, oh, wow, way wide for Ellis. That might be a slowdown. If you go a little too wide there, you do get told to give some time back by the sim. And I think that's what we're seeing from Ellis right now. Well, he was on the attack, at least for a few hundred feet.
Plenty of time.
That's going to put him back to about a second behind Ulmer, but doesn't have to worry about the cars behind them because Mike Young is about 5.7 seconds back.
Let's go to P3 real quick in the GTLMs. This is Billy Smith. Oh my goodness, this is Billy Smith. Darling making a move, and then the guy coming in there, here comes Jason Girard. It was going to be 3 wide. Smith was going to do it, but then he checked his mirrors and realized that Girard was coming even faster. He has to wait.
Going to sit in the popcorn position as he gets boxed in. And look at Girard, hard on the brakes, much better into the chicane. Gets 2 and 1 straight. Move Girard back to the podium already. But now it gets much tougher, both with those 2 fast cars with him and the fact that he is 12 seconds behind McGarvey in second position.
There goes Darling getting 1. And Darling gets double scoops here.
And all this back and forth means that De Vries is coming up to the back of this. Oh, but they're going to go side by side into the chicane. Nope. Darling gets denied. And that allows Girard to streak away a little bit on the exit. Darling now under threat as Billy Smith looks to the right side of Paul Darling down the Mulsanne Straight.
This is like old timers day at the baseball game, where they bring them all back. Girard's an old timer. Paul Darling, Billy Smith's been around forever. Jason Breeze has been gone. Good to see him back. They all need to hang around after the race and sign autographs for the kids.
It looks like we've got our first retirement from the race, Carlos Miller, who had been racing in the GTOM class. He has disconnected from the server.
Oh, not sure what happened there. Maybe we missed an incident, but we'll send someone to go check that out. In the meantime, let's stay on this battle. We were riding on board of De Vries, watching all 3 cars as they break for Indianapolis. And no position change that time. Oh, and we had a change for the lead. Up, and yes, in the prototypes, Alex Ellis gets it done.
Man, did not take him long to run down Ulmer after the slowdown penalty. I thought it would take him a little while.
I think Ulmer had his own slowdown penalty. You're going to see him lift on this straight, and with ease, the Canadian has got past him now.
Yep.
So can Ulmer rebound from there? He's got 1 hour and 6 minutes to try and take it back.
Meanwhile, in GTD, Dennis Savratik's lap times really seem to have fallen off a cliff, and Giuliano Romagnolo and Bradley Haley have ran them both down, and of course this will be Haley smelling blood here, because that's his championship rival, just a couple of seconds ahead of him now.
This is exactly what Haley wants, is to be reeled in onto Servetic. Through bridge they go. And that gap continues to get chipped away at between Romagnolo and Servetic. Less than a second now, only 8/10 on the board.
Trying to work out what happened to Servetic, if his setup is kind of more geared towards the short run, or if maybe he hasn't had the pace that Garcia had, and the racing line there almost made it look like he was coming into the pits. And he kind of just been holding on to Garcia's draft. Once he fell back a couple of seconds, he's losing that time because Servetic comes across the line this time around, runs a 3:59.5. The drivers bind him as they go by a slow GTLM car right there. The driver's right behind him, Romagnolo, in the 3:58.
Meanwhile, up at the front, we return to this battle as Ellis, under attack from Ulmer, tries it into the Porsche curves, but can't seal the deal as they now get to the more technical portion at the end of the lap.
A lot of racing to go, boys. Just let's at least get to the first pit stop. This is all going to shake out there. We didn't talk much about stops. We believe it's 2 stops for everybody, but maybe the prototypes might have to take 3.
I think it's going to be achingly tight.
Yeah, I think this lap is going to be the key. If they can only make it to this lap on fuel, well actually, there they go by pit entry right now. But next time around, they'll still have over an hour of racing left. If they can make it 2 more laps, they'll be within the 2-stop range, I believe.
Yeah, need to get to that 9-lap mark. Now, as we watch these two very tightly up at the top, we don't have to go back to it, but as far as Cervetic, I almost wonder if maybe he went over one of the tall curbs a little bit too hard and damaged the car. It is possible to do that, even in the GT3s, so could be suffering from just getting a little too aggressive.
And he's about to lose second. Romagnolo, who started 5th, has now worked his way all the way up into 2nd in class, and Cervetic is just going to keep falling back. Haley needs to capitalize once they get out of this chicane, try and get him down into Mulsanne. Or if he can't do that, try and get him into Indianapolis.
Sam made a great strategic point earlier about the fast repair. If you can limp a damaged car back into the pits, it's not nearly as costly. If you crash your car and you have to take a tow, you can pretty much write your race off because it'll be half an hour before you're ready to go again. But if Cervetic's car is injured and he can just wait, and my God, did he lose another spot there? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Haley went by. And that is an important move that has championship implications because it will extend the points gap between them.
Yeah, so Cervetic, if the car is injured, he's just got to stay out there until he gets in his window and get it fixed.
He could be in his window if he pits at the end of this lap.
That's right, because these guys don't have to go as far, right, Sam? Is that what you're saying? They don't need to go. They're not going to run as many laps.
Now, they can pit a little bit earlier. Now, what's I find interesting, Bill, is Lauro Costa, who we expected to be pretty fast, he's still down in 10th.
Oh, that's all right. If this is a 3-stop race, he's right where he wants to be. I think he's just waiting to see what's happening up in front. For him, it's a 2-stop race. He's in 8th right now between Armando Edwards and Mark Wilson.
That means that Cy Andra has gone backwards recently then. What has happened to Cy this time? Taking a look to see if I can figure out an incident. He had another slowdown, it looks like, and I think that's what cost him the 2 positions. It was coming onto the Mulsanne, but we look higher up than that to 3rd place. Mike Young has now got to worry about Robert Tinsley and Daniel Gralty. They went back to buy the traffic of Matt Owens. Tinsley has recovered much, much better than Andra.
Yeah, now one good news for Cy is he's got 16 pocket points. That's his highest drop race. That's not counting. So at least he's got a little points coming this way if he gets a bad result.
Now, last round we saw Robert Tinsley incredibly tight on fuel and barely make it to the end. Is Tinsley maybe just pushing hard
here come the leaders.
Going for a 3?
All the leaders coming in from prototype.
Ooh, they only made it to the end of lap 8.
Right.
A little close on pit entry between Ellis and Ulmer.
Well, can any of the prototypes... I mean... I'm sure they'd all like to try and do it on 2 stops, but if none of them can make... If they all have to make 3 stops, at the end of the day, they're all playing the same game.
And we watch Ellis come into his pit stall.
And even Laura Costa has to come in, so that tells you right there. So think of it this way. Monza was a 60-minute race, and they had to go...
Cyandra stays out. I'm sorry, Bill. Cyandra stays out.
That's his strategy. There's the one guy who's going to take the road less traveled. If I don't have the pace, what do you got to lose? Stay out of here. If he can get one more lap in, right, Sam, then he should be feeling good. It's a long way around.
But we could see the rest of the prototype drivers pull a Cyandra later in the race, try and make their second stint longer.
This is easier to do when you're running 10th than if you're up front.
He does get out, or it does go by before the leaders get out. Ellis exits first, ahead of Ulmer. Young now demoted to 4th because of Andra's alternate strategy. This will all switch back once they come around this next lap and Andra comes in for his pit stop.
I haven't ruled out the possibility that Dennis Savratic could have been doing this in GTDs too.
That was Alex Ellis that went by Andra. The problem with this strategy is for Andra, you have to be fast enough to actually stay ahead of the leaders after they make their stop. So Ellis goes by and Ulmer goes by. Now Andra back to 3rd.
Well, not necessarily, because the leaders will have to make the extra stop. And we saw from how far back Andra came and got ahead of them at the end.
Yeah, but Ellis and Ulmer have already made a stop, so in theory, they all have 2 more stops to make. Andra has 2 stops, Ulmer has 2 stops, Ellis has 2 stops, and Ellis and Ulmer are already ahead of him.
GTOM pit stops beginning now. Jeffrey Ooms leading them down. Stephen McGarvey stays out. But I don't think there's as much strategy in play here, Bill, because they've all completed half an hour of a race before they had to stop.
And significantly, the number 5, Jason DeVries, had a moment coming out of Maison Blanche. Oh, and multiple drivers had problems. That was, Billy Smith. Billy Smith is involved in this. We're going to see in the replay what happened here. He just slowed. Did he run out of fuel?
Oh, he was so slow, and Darling got right in behind him.
Oh, you know what? I think he had a slowdown. Yeah, he went way too wide on the exit. We're going to watch from the chopper view here. Yeah, that looks to me like he just got penalized, and unfortunately, he's slowed down in a horrible place. Let's watch from Darling's view. He's the one that was right behind him. Oof. And he actually got on the brakes, and I wouldn't think he would do that in that spot. So maybe his screen blacked out or something?
Yeah, our director's given Billy Smith the benefit of the doubt, as am I too. He's a veteran driver. He knows how to sort of slow down penalty and not do it in the middle. It had to be hardware or some type of issue.
And there goes my theory of Dennis Savratic saving fuel, because he pitted in GTD and no one else did. But another significant thing in GTD, Bradley Haley is now in 2nd. Giuliano Romagnolo, he got a slowdown penalty exiting the Ford chicane. Bradley Haley capitalized and moved up into the silver medal position.
And Bill, it was a valiant effort. But Cy Andra's car cruising along at about 58 miles an hour right now.
Yeah, the real important part of the strategy is to actually have enough fuel to finish the lap. Yeah. Again, he was in 10th. I don't think he had a lot to lose.
Oof. This is definitely going to hurt, and I think he's going to have to use those pocket points.
Yeah, it's a shame seeing that Toyota going around like a... Oh, I'm sorry, not a Toyota.
Oof, boy, this Sam is sharp today with his tongue. So watch out if you've ever made a mistake at Le Mans. You're going to get the barbs from my co-commentator. Meanwhile, we watch this battle continue between Ellis and Ulmer that has not abated. We should point out that Tinsley is behind Mike Young again.
Boy, here comes Ulmer. And see you later.
I think we're going to see this a lot between these two.
Well,
Ellis comes back. Is Ulmer saving, maybe?
Yeah, it looks like a little Chip and Dale racing there. After you, no, after you, no, after you.
Well, one way you can save fuel is into the corners and a little bit of lift and coast before you brake. I suspect maybe Ulmer is braking a little bit early to see if he can get a little bit more out of the car.
All right, here's my thinking. And Sam, you're on this one too. And what's going on now? That's Ulmer going by Ellis.
Yeah, and now Ellis was the one that lifted very early.
Okay, last run out, it's the same amount of the tank's the same size. They were at Monza. They barely made it on 2 stops. In fact, some of them had to take 3. So, or 1 stop, some of them had to take 2. So now we add the extra 90 minutes. I gotta think that Le Mans is even more thirsty than Monza is. I don't know if they can. I think they're in the same situation they were last time.
Well, I don't doubt that at all. It's just,
can you do it in 2, or do you have to do the splash and go?
well, that's the question that everybody wants to know, and we still got 54 minutes to figure that out. The second stop is probably going to tell all.
Unfortunately, one driver won't be able to figure it out. Billy Smith has became our second retirement from the race.
And here comes Tinsey, I believe, making a move behind the trees. He's right behind Young. Not going to get there. This is for 3rd place in the prototypes.
Very close with a big mistake coming out of Indianapolis for Mike Young, and Tinsey's not brave enough to stick it in through Arnage. He's going to go for the slipstream out of this right-hander as he spins the wheels, trying to get the power down, and that hurts him, but it saves Mike Young.
So this little duet is about 5 seconds behind Ellis and Ulmer, who are dancing up front. So there's your top 4 prototypes.
Meanwhile, the rest of the GTD leaders coming into the pits, barring any major drama, shouldn't be much of a change in position. Brandon Guassi had a pretty good lead over Bradley Haley, who likewise had a pretty decent lead over Giuliano Romagnolo as they came into the pits. See the rest of the GTD leaders filtering their way in behind them. But one thing we haven't talked about yet today, Drew, is tyres.
This is true. It's a long race, but it's a lot of straightaways, though. I would think that tires wouldn't really be a huge deciding factor on these cars. And actually, now that I say that, I believe they did change the rules on the GT3 cars that they can take tires and fuel at the same time. I believe that was a recent change.
That's too bad. I liked it the other way. I thought it was.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Savratek re-emerges in second after all that. Savratek getting his act back together here. He's behind Gracia now second, and Romagnolo in third. Where is Bradley Haley? Wow,
He's coming out now.
Have taken tires.
Haley was in his box for 53 seconds compared to 25 for the rest of the guys. Well, that's about 25 seconds is what I've always figured for tires to be. So, yeah, that seems like a 4-tire change. There you go.
Maybe they didn't change it yet then. I know that in the real world, Blancpain is changing that rule as well as they are at Le Mans, I believe. So that is supposed to change on iRacing in the near future. Guess they haven't implemented it yet. Oh, and while we weren't looking, Robert Tinsey's managed to sneak by Mike Young. That was coming out of Tertre Rouge. And that was just a simple slipstream pass, so really don't need to go back and get the replay on that one.
But when I last talked about that interval, remember I said it was 5 seconds from the leaders back to the second duet? Well, now it's 3.5 seconds, so...
Boy, Tinsey having some trouble coming out of the second chicane.
That's not going to help him close.
In fact, that's going to bring Mike Young up side by side with him. So who's braver on the brakes down into the Mulsanne? Answer is Tinsey.
So we'll watch Young and Tinsey as they work together, see if they can close in on Ulmer and Ellis. Now about 4 seconds back.
One thing we haven't mentioned, because we've seen a few of these HPDs squirming around, Bill, especially in the slow corners, is I think we're going to get another leapfrog pass. Nope, looks like Young's lifting. Is here at Le Mans, these prototypes are trimmed out. Very little downforce on them.
You know, and that's just the way Ulmer likes it. And honestly, I think some of Ulmer's reputation comes from the way he has it set up. He likes low downforce. He wants to be fast down the straights and deal with it through the corners, and I think that's what puts him off in the vegetation so often. But yeah, that's certainly interesting.
Now that pit stops are done, let's go through the top 5 of each of our classes, beginning with the prototypes. John Ulmer up in the lead for now, but it's been swapping back and forth a little bit throughout the race between himself and second place driver Alex Ellis, trying to challenge him for this one. Ellis didn't win last round. I'm sure he'd love to change that in this race. Mike Young, how about the job, or excuse me, Robert Tinsey is up to third, having recently overtaken Mike Young, so back on the podium after he had a slowdown that cost him early in the race. And how about Mike Young sitting in the 4th spot? Not a bad race for him. And then a little bit farther back, about 5 seconds, kind of in no man's land right now, Daniel Gralty looking to get himself a top 5. Let's go to Bill for the GTLMs.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's no surprise to see Jeffrey Ohms up in front. He's got 9 seconds on Stephen McGarvey. McGarvey tries he might to hang with Ohms, just could not do it. Jason Girard, who has that early slowdown penalty, fell well back to about 9th, has worked his way back up to 3rd in class. But here's a guy, and I'm trying to figure out why he is here. It's Dave Hill. He was not in the mix with anybody. He is now 4th in class. He's made his pit stop. His time wasn't anything unusual. So he sits 4th. Jason DeVries is in 5th, and he's just ahead of Paul Darling. So that's your top 6, with Hill being the surprise there. Sam?
Brandon Gracia continues to lead over in GTD. Some drivers behind him play in strategies, perhaps. Gracia having none of that. The only strategy he's known since the drop of the green has been hold the right pedal all the way down to the floor and pull away from the rest of them. He's done a good job of that. Dennis Savratek in 2nd place. He pitted earlier than the rest. Perhaps that meant the little less fuel he had to take during that opening stop, because he hadn't burned as much from his tank. Probably gave him a bit of a time advantage, allowed him to leapfrog back up there into 2nd place. Julio Romagnolo, he has had a good start to the race. He started in 5th. We've seen him as high as 2nd. He's running in 3rd position right now, ahead of Scott McGarvey, another driver who's slowly been working his way forward. He spent the first part of the race in 6th place. Now after stops, he's emerged in 4th. And then in 5th in class is Paul Lindsay. I think that's the first time we've met. And sorry, it's actually Kevin Santana. Paul Lindsay is back in 6th. Kevin Santana, he's been involved in a fair amount of battles out there. But yeah, then behind Paul Lindsay, you got to go all the way back behind Eldon Rosenbaum. Bradley Haley, taking those tires, has pushed him all the way back to 8th.
That's a pay me now, pay me later type thing. Let's see what happens.
Just going to head to that phrase, but we need to go back up to GTLM Paul Darling in 5th now that he's overtaken Jason DeVries through Indianapolis. But can he keep it on the track? Almost swings wide into the gravel, just holding it together. He'll keep the defensive line into Arnage. And he's finally got it done. But that may change yet still, as these two have been relatively close together for a while now.
That's good news for Dave Hills, about 2 seconds ahead of these guys. They headed down to about 1.2 seconds till they started to play together.
Well, our fans of Cy Andra, our championship leader, it's not looking good. He is a whole minute and 1 second behind Chris Pence. So he is the last prototype on track at the moment, and not looking like he's anywhere near of getting a position for a long time.
I'm not giving up on Laurel Costa, though, yet for doing the two-stop strategy. It's something you can... Maybe he took the first stint to see exactly what he needs to do. Now maybe he can make the second stint the long one. It's just so hard, Joe, to play fuel here because it's so far around. It's not like, if it was a 2.5 mile track, he can play around with going an extra lap. Here, you really need to go an extra lap.
I'm taking a glance at his lap times. The first ones were almost all 39s. So far, he's ran a 40 and a 41. So he is going a little bit slower. We'll have to keep an eye on those lap times. See if he's consistently slower this time and see if your theory has some credence.
And if he can stay within this gap, he's 39 seconds back from the leaders. You can't get too far back or you're not going to be able to, they can get the pit stop in and you still don't catch him.
Well, Bradley Haley, with what we believe is fresh tires, has caught up to the back of Sheldon Rosenbaum. This is for 7th position in the GTD class.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of lap times he's running out there. Although I'm sure Rosenbaum's holding him up a little bit here, even if tires have nothing to do with it. Haley was outpacing Rosenbaum in the early stages of this race. Now we've entered the second half of the race. So most of the GTD leaders run in about 4 minutes. Now consider Haley's lap time is impeded a little bit here. He still crosses the line and clocks a 3:59. So there is a bit of pace in those newer tyres, but he's got to find a way by the number 113 machine.
Yeah, for reference, Guaracia a 59.3 and Savretic a 59.8. So Savretic significantly slower that lap. And it was a 59.3 for Haley. So he is on pace with Guaracia. Up at the top, Ellis, now within a car length of Ulmer. See if he can do anything with the big cheese. As we ride on board, looking back through the upright supports on the rear wing. And wow, Ellis dropping off a little bit down the straightaway.
That gap's still just a tick over 4 seconds to the next duet of cars.
Surprised that you didn't know that cheese was fromage in French there, Bill. It was very tempting to tell derriere.
Just wanted to make you look smart, Joe.
Oh, Haley tries to pass Rosenbaum down the Mulsanne straight, overshoots the chicane. That's going to cost him a lot of time.
Ooh, he overshoots it by a lot, too. Let's see as they come in side by side. He tried to be daring, but the number 428, unfortunately, had to take to that paved runoff. Almost went into the gravel. Thankfully, didn't lose too much as he's still within about 7/10.
And back live, a change for second in GTD. Giuliano Romagnolo, crossover here, and Savatic gets it back. Boy, they're fighting.
Well, he's close enough. He could get into the slipstream, but he's electing not to. Interesting. And Romagnolo may have gotten a slowdown because he was a little wide on the entry we're hearing.
Took out a cone, but it looks to be okay.
He's going for this spot now.
Oh, as he gets side by side, that's so hard to do through Indianapolis, but he guts it out. And Romagnolo moves himself back into P2. So what has Savretic got for him now?
I think YOLO has passed Romagnolo. It is going YOLO here. He's passed more cars than any other driver today, it would appear, at least at the front of the field here in GTD.
And I think Romagnolo's reputation as a, how can I put this, a confident driver probably buys him a little extra space on the track from Savretic. Savretic knows what's going on.
And I feel like, though, Bill, this is a track you can get away with being a confident and perhaps even an aggressive driver. I mean, you get the runoff areas, and there's plenty of overtaking opportunities. I don't feel it's a track like Mosport where that's going to backfire against you. Gracia, that's Gracia, that's the leader, and his teammate Romagnolo takes the lead.
What happened to Gracia?
Boy, a gentle scrape, and my goodness, those guys almost got into him.
Well, this is kind of bizarre, almost similar to what we saw with... Well, no, it's a little different from what we saw with Billy Smith. He goes off into the grass on Maison Blanche. That's an easy corner in this car.
And as we head back to live action, the lead's changing again. We'll get one more replay here.
Watch these guys get around him. They decide to go behind the car. Always a good idea.
Oof. So Savretic leads now. And appropriately, we have a battle for the win between a Mercedes and a Ferrari.
Yeah, Romagnolo was very slow out of the final chicane. I almost wonder if he got a slowdown penalty that allowed Savretic to take a top spot back. But yeah, P1 and P2 changed around about 3 or 4 times in a matter of 30 seconds there.
Oh, and in prototypes, things have switched around because Ellis has been demoted to third. Robert Tinsey has gone by, and he's significantly far behind Ulmer. I'm checking to see if I can find out what happened.
I'm not so sure something happened to Ellis. I think.
No, he cut the course.
Okay, there you have it.
He cut the course in the Forza chicane. Outbraked himself. Had to take to the paved runoff. Although by that point, Tinsey was getting close. So he was already dropping off.
Right, because you look at Tinsey, remember, Tinsey was in that battle with Young, right? So the question is, where is Young? Young is now behind Gralty.
Wow, lots of changing of positions here in the middle of round 13 in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge.
Yeah, Romagnolo just got the top spot back in GTD.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Meanwhile, we had an incident with Sheldon Rosenbaum in the GTD class as well. This was coming out of the Forza chicane. We'll see on the replay. Bill, I think in technical terms, I think that's what you call goosing it.
Yep.
Here he is coming into it. Number 113. Looks confident here. Been a little too confident. Oh, he took a lot of curb on the inside. I wonder if that's what did it. Gets it going once again, but he did take a little bit of damage from the Armco. That's not going to make life fun for him on these long straights.
No, and that doesn't move Bradley Haley up a position, though, because Haley had got by Sheldon Rosenbaum by the time he had that mistake. Haley ran in 6th behind Santana 5th. Gracia fell back to 4th. McGarvey in 3rd. But the battle for 1st and 2nd, I think, is going to continue the rage on as Romagnolo and Savretic both want that top spot.
Dennis is caught up back to Romagnolo once again as they come into the Porsche curves now. And that is Ryan Huff behind them, but he is in GTLM. So even this is for overall position. This is not for class position. So they're not going to get a blue flag for him as he rocks up behind this battle for the lead. They're not going to be eager to let him through. So I'm kind of curious if this is going to maybe separate them or give an opportunity potentially.
I also have a feeling here that this is not good news for Savretic, because I wouldn't be surprised that the way he gained so much time in the first stop, if he short-fueled first time around, and he might actually lose time to Romagnolo when they come in for the second round of stops.
Time will tell. Still 36 minutes left to go on the clock, and a big mistake into the Dunlop chicane for Romagnolo. That brings Savretic right underneath his spoiler, but can't do anything with it. Now through the Forest S's. The banked left, the crest over the right that causes the car to get light. Both of them successfully through there. And Savretic is plenty close if he gets a decent run out of Tertre Rouge. Oh, and it's not a good run, though.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be more concerned with making sure that Ford GT of Ryan Huff gets by them both safely here.
Well, the good news is he can fall in line behind him, use the slipstream to try and pull a little bit farther forward. But wow, you can see just how much that hurts Savretic coming out of the entry on a Mulsanne. The extra horsepower underneath the hood of the Ford GT allowing it to easily dispense with these GTD leaders.
Let's go to 16th real quick. Oh, and it just happened. This is the Ferrari of Paul Darling. He had been stalking Dave Hill for many, many laps. He finally gets him. He moves up now into 4th in the class. Dave Hill having a great run, though. Remember, he's ahead of all the bigger names. Debris he's ahead of. Guys who have fallen out. Gerard has gotten around him finally. But Dave Hill having a great run.
Certainly a respectable one. He's another one of those drivers that doesn't really ever seem to cause too much fuss out on track, but when he has a good, consistent race, he picks up the pieces where everybody drops them. You're right on board with him. Watching Darling ahead, trying to keep him from getting away.
Ulmer, meanwhile, our overall leader, he's currently working his way through the first sequence of corners here. The S is out onto the back of a Mulsanne straight. He's going to hit the start-finish line again with about 31 minutes left on the clock. So if we see the prototypes coming in at the end of this lap, they really will have to stretch that last stint if they want to make it to the end without pitting again.
Let's go to P3 real quick. This is Alex Ellis. Here comes the guy on the move. It's Daniel Gralti. He makes quick work of Ellis. He had already got around Mike Young. This guy is coming. Just to review what's going on in the prototypes. Remember, it was Ulmer and Ellis running together. Ellis had that mistake. He drops out of it. It was Tinsey and Young running together. Young has dropped out of it. Tinsey now races in second. And then Gralti has gotten all of them. Daniel having a good charge.
Again, 4 podiums in a row. 3rd place every time for Daniel Gralti. And guess where he is now? On the podium in 3rd place.
And just to follow up on Sam's last comment, though, maybe he has the fuel to be a little more aggressive here on these closing laps of this stint.
He's got about 12 seconds up to Ulmer, so we're not close to that pit entry quite yet, but we'll definitely jump over to our leader once he gets close to there, because we're approaching that time very quickly. It's fascinating to see how this track and its challenges have thrown even some big names off their game. Tinsey's made major mistakes. Ellis has made big mistakes. And of course, can't forget Cy Andra, probably hurting the most from this. So we watch this battle between Ellis continue. That's Mike Young swinging on by.
Yeah, all of these lap times here at the end, people falling off the pace. This is all kind of suspicious. That maybe they're just seeing that they can get one more lap in.
We were wondering about that with Lauro Costa. And Bill, I'm taking a look at the Brazilians' lap times. How curiously they are all very consistently 1 second slower than his lap time last stint.
Yeah. But he is 54
and
seconds behind the leader.
I'll be the guy to break a drama and say that could be tires.
Could be. But he wasn't slowing down in the first stint. This is it. As soon as he hit the second stint, they were all slower that time.
Racing to hit a mark.
Heading in.
Yeah, this is too early. 31 minutes of racing to go. Too early. Unless he wants to try to
they're going to have
the next one.
They have to 3-stop it. I don't think they're going to be able to make it go far enough.
Alex Ellis stays out.
Says, nope. He was the guy who was off pace.
Well, it didn't work for Cy Andra. Can Alex Ellis learn from him and figure out what he did wrong?
So far around.
Ellis stays out. Anybody else? Trying to catch and see. Edwards is the next one to come in. He sits in 6th. He's going to come in.
Obviously, it's so hard to
Elliot
save.
Mimi stays out.
It's so hard to save a lap of fuel at an 8-mile track.
That's just Costa. The problem with Costa is Ulmer's already coming out, so Ulmer has one stop to make, and so will Costa, and Costas will be a lot thirstier than Ulmer when he makes his stop.
Interesting stuff in the prototypes. The picture gets clearer and clearer as the race progresses. Interesting thing, though, Bill, is that I believe Ulmer came out it was like 30 minutes and like 10 seconds.
Well, you know, one thing that Alex Ellis has picked up that he's learned from the last race, when he goes down the Mulsanne straight, he can just keep going straight and not do the chicanes, right?
Yeah, if he pulls that, we know that'll be exactly what he's thinking. And I wonder, well, boy, this is a track as well that you don't want to get an accidental extra lap. So he's going to have to watch that timer very closely. I tell you what, who we haven't watched closely, well, that's because there's not really anything happening for him. Jeffrey Ooms, he leads by 10 seconds over Steve McGarvey.
Yeah, he's a victim of his own success. He's just out there racing. We love you, Jeffrey. But when you're up by 10 seconds, in fact, all my GTLM class, really no battles going on. McGarvey is about 10 seconds behind. Ooves got 7 seconds to Gerard. There is a nice little battle, though. Can we go back to Darling real quick? Dave Hill's hanging right with... I like Dave Hill. Hanging right with Paul Darling.
Lead change in GTD, but it could have been so much worse. I think Roman Yolo probably got a cut course in the final chicanes, but if we rewind it a bit, Savratic just blew in there. I felt for sure he was going to rear end Roman Yolo, and maybe that's why Roman Yolo got a cut course. He was watching his rear view.
We're right on board with Savratic. Wow! Wow! No, I think, well, you know what happened, what it looks like is, I think he gained a lot of that because it looks like Roman Yolo was giving time back under braking. So he was already trying to serve the cut course.
Ah, okay.
He must have gone wide coming through karting. Corner tends to bite a lot of drivers. Now, wait a minute. Where is Roman Yolo? Whoa, he's way far back. He's about 1.1 behind Savratic now.
Yeah, that's because of the slowdown. Meanwhile, Ellis will probably pit at the end of his lap. Does he have enough fuel?
Yeah, unlike Cy Onder before him, Ellis has been able to run nice and quick around here, coming in under full power.
Wow.
That's a good indication.
You know what I think the difference was, Bill, is I suspect that Andre made that decision late. He wasn't saving on every lap, and Ellis probably was. He probably knew from the start.
Well, he was in that battle with up front with Ulmer, and just I'm not going to play with it.
And speaking of Andre, well, see him on screen and look at his position. It's no longer 12th. He's gotten past Chris Pence at some point along the way.
Points.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got another 25 seconds to catch Mark Wilson, and he's got 26 minutes to do it. Ulmer retakes the lead as Ellis still sits stationary. Tinsley's going to go by. Elliot Nemi comes in.
This is the tortoise and the hare right here. And right now, Alex Ellis is the tortoise. He's just going to go out, race to a number. He's done. He's not coming in again. He did that extra lap.
The thing is that he doesn't have to race to a number now. He can easily get to the end. We
Probably
know that
with that extra
26 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. He's paid the price. That's a good point, Joe.
The real question is the gap going to be enough, because we know, or at least we're fairly certain, that Ulmer is not going to be able to make it without another stop.
John, I love you, but I just don't see John having the he's just not going to be able to race slow. That's just not his style.
Yeah, talking about racing slow, though, Dennis Savratic, remember we just saw him having a 1 second lead over Roman Yolo. Well, Roman Yolo ran that down and passed him. I don't know if that means he just got a really good pull on the Mulsanne straight. or if Savratic is trying to save a little bit of fuel so he doesn't have to be in his pit stall for as long during the second stop.
The guy you got to watch out for is Bradley Haley. Remember, he took those tires. He's 17 seconds now behind Savratic.
Yeah, he got by Santana a couple of laps ago.
And I believe we've got some of our GTLMs pitting, Leif Peterson among them. And actually, he's finished. He's coming on out as he goes through the Dunlop curve into the chicane.
Roman Yolo into the pits. Savratic stays out. And it will be interesting seeing where they are when this cycle of GTD pit stop cycles through.
McGarvey stays out, but Guaracia does not. He comes in. Haley stays out as well.
Oh, Lauro Costa, an extended pit stop. It sounds like he had an unwanted tyre change. He didn't want to change his tyres, but forgot to deselect it.
That's from being away so long. That's just how to do that.
Got to cross every T and dot every I. So as Ellis comes back out, I would like to point out that he's returned in 4th position, which is not a bad place to be in. Wasn't he fighting with Gralty before?
Yeah, actually, Gralty made it all the way up to 3rd.
So what happened to Gralty then?
Gralty has fallen back a few spots. Let's see how his stop was.
35 seconds. Did he get... Oh, you know what? I think Gralty got a speeding penalty.
Usual stop around 20 seconds. A speeding penalty is 15 seconds. You add those together, you get 35. That's what I think we got there.
You did math correct again.
No. That's because we're at GSRC, which stands for we don't know.
All right, so Ellis, 17 seconds behind Ulmer. That I am seeing. Is that correct, actually? Yeah, 18 seconds behind Ulmer, and Ulmer has to make a stop. Yeah, that'll be plenty, Bill. I think Ellis is the man to watch now.
Yep.
He should have this easily.
Unless John and Robert and Mike can settle down and do what Alex did in the second stint.
I don't think you can save that much. Well, even if they do, Ellis can go flat out.
Right.
And they'll have to save even more than Ellis did.
What they need to do is just go fast enough to stay ahead of Ellis, but slow enough where they don't have to do one extra lap.
Easier said than done. More GTLMs coming in for their stops. There you see Stephen McGarvey heading in from 2nd place. Heading out from 2nd place, I should say. As well, Jason Gerard, who sits on the podium now. What a recovery drive from Gerard. He was well back down the order of that GTLM class. We got to watch out for Savratic because he has not pit yet. And Haley as well.
Yeah, Haley turned a 3:57 last lap around, which is a qualifying pace for the GTD machines. Of course, he has a qualifying fuel load on board right now as they approach the end of the stint. It shows you those tyres giving him an advantage. Will it be too little, too late? We'll find out in the next 20 minutes.
And do any of these guys take tires when they come in?
And Savratic is in.
I can't imagine they would with 20 minutes left, Bill.
Yeah.
McGarvey stays out.
Ooh, interesting. Scott McGarvey, could he be a dark horse here? Could he finally get a win in this series? Haley is in as well. Now, does Dennis take tires?
Yeah, Sam makes a good point. If you're going to take tires, you want to take them on the first stint where you get more use out of them. If Savretic takes it now, he has to pay for them in all that seconds, but he only gets the fun of them for 20 minutes.
And let's not forget, though, it's not just about lap time. I mean, it could easily be argued that Garcia may have not spun around if he had been on new tires earlier.
Well, we watched it, and Dennis did not take tires. But they're going to be pretty old compared to Haley.
Where will he come out with relation to Romagnolo? Remember, those two have been fighting each other all race long.
Oh, he's out well ahead.
Romagnolo had a really long stop. He was in there for 43 seconds, as was Garcia, 42 for their last time. So
maybe Romagnolo did take tires.
I was looking at that. Maybe a little bit of fuel. That's why 43 seconds, maybe a light fuel load here at the end. And tires, maybe. Be funny when we interview Haley, we find out it was just a mistake that he took tires.
Yeah, that could be too.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like Savretic is going to come out the winner of this GTD, and that was looking a bit unlikely. Before.
And guys, we have the first of our drivers to blink in the prototype. Sorry to interrupt. Mike Young comes in. Mike Young has decided he can't make it to the end and takes his third stop.
Get it out of the way.
Yep. That way you don't have to worry about it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Now you can start the healing process.
Should be a very short stop. Just a splash and dash. There it is. Yep. It's exactly what happened. So, what does this do for Ellis and Tinsey? Well, wait. When did Ellis get by Tinsey? Was that wasn't how it was before, was it?
Nope. Ellis is now up by about 1, and I imagine Tinsey maybe trying to save.
Oh yeah, I'd say that's very much what happened. Because he gunned him down quickly, but not quick enough for it to be a slowdown penalty.
Yep. So the distance between Ulmer back 16 seconds back to Ellis. It was about 18 after the pit stop. Laura Costa's in the pits.
We're going to try and find a replay of Costa because he seems to have had an issue somewhere. No, this is just
Not
him.
Sure. I think he just brought it in.
No, he parked it right before the pit entry. Huh.
It could be a case of I took those tires. My whole strategy's out the window.
He was already well down the order. Yep.
Yeah. Try it again next week.
Sad to see for such a fast driver. Now, I want to point out one thing in this storyline between Ellis and Tinsey. Last race, that controversy, based somewhat around the fuel strategy. Tinsey blew that chicane to try and keep from having to slow down extra to make sure he had enough fuel to do that extra lap. That caused a little bit of ire from Alex Ellis because Ellis pitted to make sure he had fuel. And he said, well, if I had done the same as Tinsey, then I could have not taken that stop and won that race. It's going to be extra sweet for Ellis if he beats Tinsey on fuel strategy here today.
Now, we just saw John Ulmer, our overall leader, going by Sheldon Rosenbaum and Bradley Haley. Well, the way that strategies have played out, those two are actually now battling for third place here in the GTD class. However, Scott McGarvey is in the pits now. This will essentially be second. Boy, Scott McGarvey, this could be interesting. This is going to be a very short stop for the number 64. It'll be interesting seeing where he comes up with relation to these guys. But and here he comes.
It's a long pit lane, though, and Savretic just crossed the start-finish line.
Yes, could be an interesting bout for second, though.
Yeah, Haley just going through the final chicane.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Rosenbaum had yet to pit. Okay, so, yeah, I was trying to work out how Rosenbaum had got up there. So now, all of a sudden, Savretic leads in GTD, McGarvey just came out in second, and Haley is in third. So our points contenders running in the podium positions.
The gap between McGarvey and Savretic, 6.8. So unless we get some disaster from Dennis, Scott's not in the contention for the win. But significantly, I'm looking at the gap, and I think it's settled down now. This is huge. It's 9.2 between McGarvey and Haley.
Yeah,
I don't think tires are going to help him that much.
No, not with 15 minutes to go.
Well, yeah, McGarvey, boy, he's been hanging around 6th place all day long, at least throughout the early stages. Then he was about 5th or 4th, and now all of a sudden he's came out here in 2nd. He must have been saving fuel all race long, would be my guess, so that he could afford to take these shorter stops later in the race.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It seems to be the only explanation for how you could jump up so easily.
And we talked about the cushion that Savretic needed between himself and Haley. We were talking about drivers like Gracia and Romagnolo. We did not mention Scott McGarvey, but that's a position that Savretic can use to pick up some more points.
Well, let's not forget Romagnolo and Gracia, because they are, I believe, now 4th and 5th in class. Okay, Santana's in 5th, but Romagnolo here, he's got very new tyres. Santana's actually been in the walls a little bit there. So it'll be interesting seeing if he can run down Haley in the closing stages.
Well, guys, with 13 minutes left, I got to give some love to the GTLM guys. It's Jeffrey Ohms, 15 seconds ahead of McGarvey. Not sure if we're coming back, you boys, after this one. So McGarvey, Ohms is out there, Stephen McGarvey racing in 2nd, and Jason Girard in 3rd.
Well, if we want to give him screen time, we can stay on him while I talk about this, because the plot thickens. John Ulmer is going 2 seconds a lap slower than his regular pace. So Ellis is gaining, but if Ulmer is only now starting to fuel save, he's going to fall victim to exactly what we saw from Sayandra, and that he probably isn't going to make it.
But look how much fuel he can save, Joe. A 16-second lead. I mean, you can save a lot of fuel and giving up 16 seconds.
Interesting. I guess so. If you had 8 laps to save fuel, you could save a second each lap, or you could run full speed the first 4 laps and save 2 seconds the last 8 laps or 4 laps.
Yeah, we've only got about 4 laps left.
I don't think he's going to get there.
I'm with you, Bill.
This is John Ulmer. Things don't happen to John like this.
Meanwhile, 3rd place in this class, look at Gralti. Tinsey is trying to do the same thing as Ulmer, and it's costing him spot after spot.
But Gralti and Tinsey are on the same strategy. They came in on the same lap.
No, this is true. So is Gralti trying to just go flat out, take the extra stop maybe? Because I don't think he was close to Tinsey before. This is for a podium spot right now.
This is, again, more. There's so many ramifications of these things. This is big for Sayandra. Again, if Gralti can get around Tinsey, keeps Tinsey from closing that much more.
And Sayandra has DNF'd, we should mention. I don't know if we've said that on air. So he is absolutely going to take his 17 drop points for this round.
Romagnolo is going to get Haley for 3rd in GTD. Romagnolo is running incredible times on those new tyres at the end of this race. He's eating up 2 seconds a lap. There's Tinsey. Finn's getting close here for 3rd.
Gets a little bit loose coming over the crest of the Forest S's, but they both make it through safe. And as we watch this, Ulmer went a little bit faster that time. I'm trying to remember, I believe Ulmer was involved in a fuel strategy battle at Road America as well. Did he win that one? It was the Andra.
Yeah, I think Andra got that one. I just consider the big cheese to be like Eeyore. If you know you're winning the pool, it's like, oh, it's gonna happen to me. Ran out of gas. Oh, well.
He still leads, and by 17 and a half seconds over Ellis, with only 10 minutes to go on the clock.
Pass for third position. I think Grolty got. Oh, come on, Daniel, stop teasing me.
Nothing into the Michelin chicane. He's going to be within the slipstream. Maybe Gralty's using Robert Tinsey as a plow.
That's all I'll say.
Just letting him push the air aside. We'll find out. He's got a good run. Yep, that's exactly what he's doing. He lifts. He is not interested in passing him.
Tinsey not going full speed either, though. I mean, they were 184 miles an hour entering the hairpin there. I think as they go by our GTD lead, the Savatic, these cars are capable of 190 in this trim. Let's see how high they hit going into Indianapolis. Tinsey, okay, yeah, no, he's going 190, but it's not fast enough. Here comes Grolty.
To the inside, down in Indianapolis. Big bobble from Tinsey as he tries to keep the car out of the runoff. Give P3 to Daniel Gralty yet again.
I almost wonder then if the reason Gralty was holding back, he didn't want to give... Oh, as Tinsey spins his wheels out of the corner there, he didn't want to give Tinsey the opportunity to get him back into Indianapolis.
Yeah. Or for Tinsey to hold on to him to save fuel.
It also might be a race to pit entrance, too. You want to be first down pit lane if you have to do a splash and go.
Going to be 8 minutes left to go when they come by this time.
Well, Ulmer's gap to Ellis, it's not going anywhere. 17 seconds.
Not what I expected. I thought for sure that Ellis had this one in the bag.
What? This could all come down to when he crosses the line, if he has to go, how many laps he has to go.
Well, Ulmer's perhaps gave up on fuel saving and trying to build up as much of a gap as he can, so if he does have to pit, he doesn't lose as much time in positions.
There you go.
Where is the checkers going to... Where are they going to be on track when the checkers come out, actually? At 3:37 per lap. And now 7:50 on the clock.
Oh, good luck on this one. This will be fun, folks.
Well, that's actually 7 minutes. 7 and about 12 seconds.
Oh, Kevin Santana is out of a race. It's just happened. He'd been running in 6th in GTD.
Oh, wow. Let's see. We've got a replay up. Oh, and we thought we had a replay.
Yeah, it was back on his lap 20. The car got loose. He bounced it off the outside wall.
His tires going away.
So I think, let's see, I think they should get 3 laps, actually. 3 laps left, if I'm doing my math right.
Ulmer on lap 23.
Yeah, because Sam said about 27 laps for these guys.
That's 9. That's
It'll be a lot easier to do the numbers when he crosses the line here.
GTD Giuliano Romagnolo has now caught up to Bradley Haley.
Yeah, Romagnolo, I mean, last lap around, a 3:57.193. Now in qualifying, that would have put him 3rd on the grid.
Wow. Great stuff from Romagnolo at the end of this race. This has got to be encouraging
for him. All race long.
Really has. Has to be a little bit disappointed since it looked like he was going to fight for the win briefly, but he gets by easily down into the braking for the Michelin chicane.
2 seconds a lap quicker than the rest of the field. I mean, and he's not too far behind Scott McGarvey. I think he can easily get second. Savatic might be a bit of a bigger ask.
Yeah, for the fans, you have the front 2 guys running on the rims. They have not made a tire change. You have Romagnolo, who just made a tire change, and then you have Haley, who made one on the first stop. So 3 different strategies.
and we thought that maybe Ulmer was safe, but it's not looking like that anymore. What was 17 seconds is now 14 seconds. Ulmer's coming to line. All right, we're going to get a good feel for how many laps they have left.
I think it will be 2 laps, yeah.
I think 2. White flag next time around.
That's not as bad as it could have been, to be honest.
Nope.
25-lap race.
2 seconds slower that time by for John Ulmer.
Because the worst thing for a driver who's trying to save fuel is for the driver to take the leader to take a white flag with 10 seconds left on the clock. Ulmer will be taking it with about 1 to 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, so a predictable amount of laps for them. 2 seconds faster than John Ulmer last lap for Alex Ellis. So that 14-second gap is now 15.
Oh, Romagnolo's already been and passed Haley for 3rd place. Well, we caught that, didn't we? But not making any inroads on McGarvey yet.
No, it's gone down half a second, actually. It was 4 seconds when we saw him pass Haley. It's now 3.5. But like we said, he's only got 2 laps to do it. Driver we haven't really looked at a lot since we just really haven't looked at this class is Jason Gerard. He's down to 2.3 on Stephen McGarvey. McGarvey's last lap was a 3:53.9. Gerard a 3:53.1. 8/10 faster last time by. Gerard might actually get within striking distance.
Got a shot. That would be nice for this class who's been really quiet this race. This report, remember we talked about Dave Hill, had a great run. He's now fallen down to 6th in class, but he was doing really well for a while.
One of the major characters in the stories that develop here at Le Mans is the clock. And right now that clock is getting ever closer to being done with its job. It should get down to the white flag when Ulmer comes by as we look at our leader coming out of Mulsanne up towards No Name and Golf. It's holding steady at 15 seconds over his main rival in this race, Alex Ellis. But championship-wise, the big story this race is Tinsley. Even if he does finish in 4th, that's assuming he can get there on fuel on this. He's going to get a big points haul over Cy Andra. And this could finally mean that Robert Tinsley moves into the points lead.
We got to watch out. Even though Tinsley's 12 seconds ahead of Mike Young is knocking off about 1/10 of a second every breath. Don't think he can make up 12 seconds unless Tinsley really has to start to save.
Well, Tinsley's last few laps are a 44, a 43, and a 43. That's even slower than Ulmer.
Is Ulmer going to take a white flag here, or is it going to make a right turn?
Oh, there's no way John's coming in.
All or nothing here for John Ulmer. As he comes out of karting through Maison Blanche. We ride on his nose. Down to the pit entry. He's in!
That's why it was going so fast.
They decided to give up on the plan. And I don't think 15 seconds is going to be enough at all as Alex Ellis. Now, we assume he can make it, and he's committed. He thinks he's safe. We think he's safe. But will the fuel cell say that he's safe?
Grolty is in.
That's why he was so fast. Grolty comes in. My guess is Tinsley will not.
Tinsley's going incredibly slow. Wow, he is coasting, and he's staying out. He is coasting a ton.
No reason to go slow if you know you got to come in. Yeah.
And Tinsley nearly cut the chicane. He was trying to avoid the brakes so much. Woo-hoo-hoo. So Ulmer has been in and out. And Tinsley's moved himself up into third with that move, but can he make it to the end? Last lap for Tinsley. Let me look at that because that's going to look ridiculous. 350.
Gralty is out now, but this is really the interval between Tinsley and Gralty is going to be interesting. 3 seconds right now. Well, that's to Young, actually. Young stayed out. Oh, Young came in and made a stop, too. So this is where Gralty can make up some time. He's got to make up some points. He's got Young and Tinsley ahead of him. All going on behind Alex Ellis.
Alex Ellis, who has flipped it around. It was 15 seconds between himself and Ulmer. It's 15 seconds, but reverse order with Ellis leading. I asked him after Monza during his interview if he was thinking about the fuel-saving aspect of Monza, and he said that he was going to come in there and make good on it. And he knew what he was going to do. And, well, I'd say he's delivering.
What is it about drivers named A. Ellis in red and white cars that seem to be quite fast here on iRacing? So back to our good friend Ayrton, who used to help us with the commentary here.
Well, that's going on. I think Giuliano Romagnolo is going to eat up Scott Garvey.
Yeah, we can stay on this, so we don't have to go to it, but Gerard is drop time on Stephen McGarvey, so the other McGarvey looks solidly into second.
Big brother, not so much, because here comes Giuliano.
And he's going to get a nice run with a slipstream as we ride on his dash. Ferrari accelerates out of Forza.
Right behind them, though, is Armando Edwards, who's going to want to try and get by both of them. You should see him duck to the left side here. They're going to go 3 wide.
That was pretty safe.
I don't know if Romagnolo really wants to do the move here, though. He's going to do it, but now McGarvey can try and get him back into Indianapolis.
Oh, he's much stronger on the brakes.
Mulsanne.
Oh, but he overshoots the corner a little bit, maybe? No, he makes the apex, but boy, he was hot into there. I don't think he's going to have anything for him because Giuliano on those fresh tires is flying.
Meanwhile, here comes Ellis.
Through Maison Blanche. Boy, revenge is best served cold. But today, in the warmth of the engine of his HPD, Alex Ellis saved enough fuel to take out everybody and win here at Le Mans round 13. What about third place for Tinsley, though? That's not settled.
Here comes Mike Young.
He's picked up the pace. I guess he thinks he can make it from here. Young closing fast. All or nothing for Tinsley at this point. Didn't have to cut anything through these chicanes. And Tinsley is going to get a podium.
And Dennis Savradik, during the first stint, I started to get worried. He'd been battling for the lead, and then he just started dropping back. Well, it looks like maybe at that point was when he decided to switch strategies to try and have shorter pit stops. And I think it paid off for him well today. He's been able to take care of his tires. He hasn't had any spins, hasn't really been involved in any drama. And he's going to have a nice cushion over Giuliano Romagnolo, who has pulled away healthily in second position now here on the final lap. Dennis Savratik only has a couple of turns left to go. This is going to be a big chunk of points out of Bradley Haley's points lead. Haley back in fourth place as the checkered flag is about to fly for your GTD winner here. Dennis Savratik takes the number 9 car into the winner's circle.
Ooms is up next. He's coming up to the Porsche curves. Bill, do you have any notes to wax poetic at the end of this race for Jeffrey Ooms?
Boy, every once in a while you have one of those seasons where it's that perfect season that you're born with. You can't be learned or taught. It has to be remembered, and that's what Jeffrey Ooms, that one pure season he's having right now.
Taking that Busch Fink car to victory lane, a very familiar spot for this machine. As he comes through Maison Blanche and now up to the forward chicane. Slowing it up one last time, Jeffrey Ooms, in a fashion we're very familiar with, wins here at Le Mans. With that, we're going to go to break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But stick around because on the screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Circuit de la Sarthe. We just watched round 13 in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. It's now down to 2 rounds to go, and the championships are getting juicier. Alex Ellis took the win today. That's got to feel incredibly nice to him after losing in similar circumstances at Monza 2 weeks ago. John Ulmer had to take those 3 stops, but still got himself second place. And Robert Tinsley did a lot of lift and coast, but still managed a 3rd place, which is critical for him because we believe he should now overtake the points lead in the prototypes with that finish. Mike Young takes 4th, followed by Daniel Gralti with a nice top 5, finally breaking his 3rd place streak. 4 in a row was the most that he could do there. Elliot Mimi, on one hand, took a 6th place. He's had a number of good finishes lately with his prototype car. Armando Edwards was behind him in 7th, and Mark Wilson finished in 8th. Then Lionel Duprat takes 9th, and Chris Pence rounds out the top 10 and is the last of our prototypes, Bill.
And 2 other prototypes that are DNFs that's down in my class there, Laura Costa and Cy Andra did not finish. Let's go to the GTLMs, where It was Jeffrey Ohms came home wire to wire. Steven McGarvey right behind him. Paul Darling had a nice drive up through the field, gets that final podium spot. Jason Gerard was fast early, had a spin, fought it all the way back to get fourth. Jason Deep Freeze DeVries comes home in the final spot in the top 5. Dave Hill was running strong for a while, falls back to 5th. Leif Peterson, Ryan Huff behind them. Few more drivers that you won't see on the chart there. Dale Green down the order. Billy Smith II had a DNF, as did Carlos Villa. Sam?
So then we go over to the GTDs, where Denis Savratic took the win ahead of Giuliano Romagnolo, who had a very impressive showing today. Scott McGarvey, likewise, was quiet all race long, but finished up there on the podium, ahead of Bradley Haley, who tried to play a bit of strategy, didn't quite work out, and he's going to lose some points because of it. Brandon Guarcia was actually a Windows problem that he had during the race that caused him to spin. Otherwise, things were looking very solid for the driver of that number 67 machine. He finishes in 5th ahead of Paul Lindsay. Sheldon Rosenbaum back there in 7th ahead of Tim McLeish and Sheldon Woloshin. Rob Sklenka, Matt Owens, Alan Hessebeck, Sean Rees also further back there. And then we get to a couple of the drivers who ran into trouble. Kevin Santana and Mark Kudrowski having difficulties over in the GTD class today at the Circuit de la Sarthe.
And with that, we've got our winner waiting in the wings, Alex Ellis, ready to talk to us with the champagne in hand. And Alex, I'm a little bit sad that we don't have face cam for this, so I'm going to waste my first question by asking, are you grinning ear to ear right now?
Oh, you have no idea. What a way to bounce back from Monza.
So I am assuming the way that you were driving this race, you had this plan from the start, did you not?
Yeah, so we were considering. I was on the radio with Cy the whole time. So unfortunately, he made the mistake, but I was able to learn from it. So we were chatting, and we knew that the first stint would be difficult just because that run to the line. So I knew that if I was going to stretch a stint an extra lap, it was going to be the second or the third. As soon as I pitted out with Ulmer, I knew that I could kind of tack on the back of him and make it work in that second stint.
So you used the draft. That's one thing that we didn't catch. We did notice the way that you had had a little bit slower pace on that second stint. We kind of wondered, and then you confirmed it as the race continued. Now, what were your thoughts as you were chasing Ulmer at the end? Did you feel confident that he would have to come in for a third stop, or did you start to worry when you saw that the gap wasn't coming down?
No, as soon as I saw that the gap wasn't coming down, I pretty much knew that he had decided to go for it. Just because you could see from Tinsey in that third stint, you really, really had to back off from lap 1 of your stint, lift and coast and try and get the draft wherever you could to make it work. So as soon as we were about halfway through that stint and I saw he was still running sub 340s, I knew that he was going to have to make a splash and dash. So I was just bringing it home at that point.
Obviously, you're too far out for the championship overall in the prototypes at the end of the season, but you've made improvements here towards these last few races. Are you thinking perhaps next season you could aim for P1?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a rookie in this championship this year, so it's been just getting a feel for the other drivers, for the race format, and the cars. And so now I'm slowly getting to the point where I think I could string together a good championship run next year.
All right. Well, best of luck in 2 weeks' time and in next season. Can't wait to see you when we go to Imola.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Joe.
That was our winner today, Alex Ellis, in the prototypes. We have our winner in the GTLMs as well. Jeffrey Ooms is finally going to get a little bit of attention here with Bill.
You know, since we didn't give you a lot of screen time because you were wiring to wiring it, let's get you in here to talk to you for a minute. Congratulations. It's always scary when we do math here on the Global SimRacing Channel, but I think you're the champ. I think you're safe. You feel that way?
I think so too. I'd have to just check the points tomorrow. But yeah, as for the race today, though, for whatever reason, I thought that I had to do a bunch of fuel saving because I didn't think that I put in enough fuel on that last stop. So probably the second half of all 3 stints, I was fuel saving pretty good, giving up between anywhere from half a second to 1.5 seconds a lap there. So I mean, it was a pretty good run all told, but could have been a little bit quicker in the end.
Okay, got two more questions for you. Let's talk about, what can we talk about? Your wire-to-wire win. Let's go with what your racing rig is like. I'm going to be really upset if I find out you're on like a kitchen table and a desk chair with a Maggie Simpson wheel. What's your rig like?
Well, right now I'm running HE Ultimate pedals, OSW wheel, Sam Maxwell Z1 wheel, or rim, I guess, and then on triple 27s, and then the actual rig is Obato Revolution.
There you go. So you're in something that makes you feel comfortable. All right,
for sure.
Get you out on this one. We're not going to see you again for 2 weeks. So what's coming up in your personal life in the next 2 weeks that I can ask you next time I have you? You got something coming up between now and then?
I wish I could say I did, but no, just working every day and probably just lots of racing in between here and then. And
Okay.
what is the next track anyways?
I don't know. It's going to be some Imola. Okay.
Imola, right on. That's another favorite of mine too. So we'll put in lots of practice and just try to continue this roll on. I'd have to just give a quick thank you to Alex Simonic too, because he's pretty much the reason why I'm on Team Bushfink this year, and a good reason is why I'm pretty quick is because of that team having good support behind me and everything like that. So big thank you to the team and Alex.
Yeah, Team Bushfink. You can't go wrong there. Okay, congratulations on the win today and what we think is the championship.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I asked Bushfink if they'd be interested in having me as a teammate. I'm still waiting for the letter in the mail.
You have to bribe them with more bear claws, Bill.
There you go. All right, who you got?
Well, up next, and just to clarify, I don't believe that's mathematically sealed for the championship, but even if McGarvey wins both rounds, I believe he still needs horrible finishes from So yeah, pretty much got it in the bag now. Anyways, up next, we have second place in GTD. Sam's talking to Giuliano Romagnolo.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Giuliano. Congratulations on your podium finish out there today.
Thanks. You know what? It was a tough race. Kind of bittersweet for me and my fellow teammates. Seeing Alex wins a high and seeing Brandon have that computer crash or whatever he had there was unfortunate.
Yeah, but let's talk about your race. I feel that as far as the GTD race went, you did more on-track passing than any other driver. Were you disappointed with your qualifying result?
Yeah, you know what? I was actually a second faster than the pole sitter as my optimal lap. I had a really poor qualifying session. I was pretty upset. The car was great today, but to be honest, I didn't have enough practice, and it kind of showed in the qualifying. But I was quicker and quicker as the race went on, so I was able to catch the guys towards the end, barely getting second. I'm happy that I changed my tires in the second stop rather than the first.
Yeah, that definitely seemed to play to your advantage. I've got to admit, we were all skeptical considering there were only about 20, 30 minutes left to go at that point. But was that your decision all race long to do that and to be on the good tires at the end?
Honestly, I was actually planning on not taking tires at all. I made the mistake of not looking at what my percentages were on my tires on the first stop and kind of went out. And I saw Bradley stayed in the pits and as I pulled away. So I knew then I kind of made a mistake, and I double checked, and I knew for sure that I made the mistake of not taking tires. So I knew at that point it was almost salvage, be consistent as possible until the last stop, take the tires and pretty much pump out qualifying laps and hopefully pass them at the end, which is kind of what happened.
Yeah, well, congratulations on a solid finish here, Giuliano. Wish you the best of luck in 2 weeks' time when we go to Imola.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for the broadcast.
Well, that was our second place finisher over in GTD, Giuliano Romagnolo. Finished just a little bit back of Dennis Savratek at the checkered flag, Drew.
Yeah, very close there in that class at the end. So we have one more driver to talk to here, and he wasn't on any of the podiums. He finished 6th in the prototypes, but I'm going to let Bill have the honors of talking to, I think, one of his favorites now, Elliot Mimi.
Elliot, I got 2 questions. We're going to go 2 directions. First of all, we're going to talk about 6th place finish. Nicely done. Did you 2-stop it or did you have to 3-stop?
I did a 2-stop. I was basically on the same strategy as Alex. Unfortunately, I was just too slow to really make any good use of it and make up any more spots.
Let's go now to racing with one hand. That's my second question. How'd you do for 90 minutes? How's your arm?
My left arm is pretty tired. My right, I'm able to use like my right palm on the steering wheel, but I can't grip the wheel. I was telling Joe that earlier, and so yeah, it's a little bit challenging. And at the start of the race, I don't know how many upshifts I missed because I had to switch my upshift to the left thumb button instead of the right paddle. So on like the first 3 laps of the race, I think I pretty much hit the limiter coming onto every straight in just about every gear because I kept forgetting oh yeah, I got to use my other hand to upshift.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this one. We talked about it during the race. We know that it happened during a St. Patrick's Day. Well, it's a bar fight. So was it? Yeah. Did you hurt? All I want to know is, did you hurt it with an offensive maneuver or a defensive maneuver?
It was an offensive maneuver.
Attaboy.
Yeah, a little bit unfair though when you're the designated driver on St. Patrick's Day and everyone else in the brawl can barely stand up. But yeah, it was a good time for St. Patrick's Day. I thought you might appreciate that, Soup. So
that's what I like to hear. Hey, congratulations! Sorry about your hand.
I got one more question that I feel like we need to get in because of this incident, Elliot. Do you actually have any Irish blood in you?
I do. It's not what I am predominantly, but my mother has a decent amount of Irish blood on her side, but I'm mostly of Italian descent.
Oh, both fiery combos. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a dangerous concoction.
All right, sorry to interrupt you there, Bill. I had to get that one in.
That's all right. Columbus Day is coming up for you soon, Mimi. So there's another one to mark.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks again, guys. You guys are always hilarious. I cannot wait to go back and watch this one because, Soup, I gotta say, you made a joke in the majors race last night, something about avian names, and dude, I almost fell off my couch laughing. You're so funny, man. I love you guys so much.
Don't encourage me. All right, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
That was Elliot Mimi, 6th place finisher in the prototypes. We're going to close up. And of course, we want to thank the Autobahn Motorcar Group, the official sponsor of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. And a big thanks to John Ulmer and his team of helpers who organize these races week in and week out. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at /Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSR_Graham. And if you haven't yet, if you're not on our YouTube page, head on over there and hit that big red subscribe button to get all of our upcoming races in your feed. The next race, we're going over to Italy, appropriately for Elliot, to Imola. That'll be Monday, April 2nd at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.